Hey everyone, it's me Yana. Welcome back to my channel. I make lifestyle content, post-grad content, and I'm about to graduate with my Master's of Social Work, so definitely hit the subscribe button if you're interested. Today I decided to do a Q&A. I haven't done one in a really long time, so I asked you guys on my Instagram to ask questions, and then also I have a couple of I think like 1 or 2 questions from YouTube that I was asked a while ago and that I figured I would talk about in this Q&A. So definitely go ahead and grab your favorite drink of choice, coffee, Dr. Pepper, water. I went to a local coffee shop and got some coffee, so I'll be sipping on that today. But without any further ado, let's just dive right in. Okay, so the first question I got is, how are you doing mentally? So mentally, I would say right now I'm doing pretty well. A few days ago and throughout this past month, actually, it's been really hard just because it's the last couple weeks of school and I'm graduating, so I feel like I've just had a ton of stuff to do and have been feeling stressed and overwhelmed with things. But I feel like right now, like, I literally just have a week left, so I'm kind of like, okay, we're basically done type of a thing. I still have a lot to do, but I can like see the end, so I feel like I'm doing better in that. But overall, I would say I'm doing pretty good. Someone asked what plans after graduation. So I don't know if I think I talked about it in an earlier video, but I accepted a full-time position as a pre-licensed therapist at like a counseling group practice type of a thing. So yeah, I'm super excited about it. I interviewed, they reached out to me because I interviewed with them for internships last year, but we do a matching process, so I got placed with the current internship where I'm at now, which I love. But they reached out and were like, oh well, we know that you're graduating, like, would you like to apply? So I applied, got an interview, felt really good about it. Obviously it's always nerve-wracking to start a new job, and it'll be like my first full-time job with like benefits, because throughout grad school I've been working part-time jobs just because I could not do a full-time job at this point. But yes, so that is what I'm planning on doing, and I'm excited. It's like 5 days a week, you know, it's 8 to 5 every day, except one day of the week I'll work like a 10 to 7. And yes, like, I'll be full-blown therapist, which is really crazy. So yeah, I'm excited, nervous. I feel like I have a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, even going throughout my clinical internship right now and like doing therapy for the first time, like, it's been 9 months and I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I know that I've learned a lot, but at the same time I feel like I've only barely grazed the surface of what there is left to know. And I think grad school doesn't do the best job of preparing you for like actual on-the-job stuff. Like, you really can't learn that without getting into it. You kind of learn the basics and, you know, get the knowledge that you need to pass the exam, but it's so different like actually having to do it. Those are my plans as far as job goes. So I will be starting at the end of June, so I gave myself a couple of weeks just to chill, breathe, relax, and then depending on, I'd have to do financial calculations and things like that, but I might be able to move out at the end of summer, early fall. If not, I will wait to move out like winter, spring, late winter, early spring of this, not this year, technically next year, but like, you know, so sometime within the next 9 months, 8 to 9 months. It will really just depend how things work out. Like if I find a place, if I feel like I'm financially stable, or if I need a couple extra months to save up. I'm not really in a rush. I really just kind of want to take my time, get adjusted to the new job, and then, you know, figure out like, okay, like where do I need to, you know, move out and get all of the things in line for that. So those are my plans for after graduation, and hopefully getting more consistent on YouTube, and yeah, just living my big girl adult life. Someone commented on one of my videos, but I didn't really talk about it too much, but they said, would you consider making a video about your job search and application processes? So I probably will at some point do a video on that, but my job process was smooth. Like I didn't really have to, I did apply to a couple of places, but I had some recruiters on like LinkedIn and stuff reach out to me and ask if I wanted to apply, and then I applied and I did get interviews, but I had to like go back and tell them that I wasn't going to interview with them anymore because I had accepted the position with the job I just talked about. So yeah, it was kind of a thing where I already knew of this place. I literally interviewed with them for my clinical internships last year, and at my school we do a matching process where you put your top choices, they put their top choices, and then they'll go ahead and match. So they were on my top 3 choices, and I ended up getting my first choice, which is where I'm at now, which I really love, but that company was my second choice, so it was like really close. Like I had a hard time deciding which to place top versus my second choice. So they had already known me, and then they reached out, I want to say like, was it January, February? And they were like, hey, like we know that we interviewed with you last time, and yeah, like feel free to apply. And then I applied and got an email for an interview. But honestly, like I would say I would definitely recommend starting by asking professors or asking your classmates kind of where they've had their internships, where they've had, you know, jobs. A lot of professors know about a lot of different like clinics or whatever it is you're looking for around your area. So definitely I think starting with people that you know in your cohort, and starting with your professors, I feel like that's probably the best way. But also I would recommend updating your LinkedIn profile, and you can put looking for a job. And honestly, social workers and therapists are in such high demand, so I'm sure people will reach out to you, or you could reach out to them. Also honestly looking at Indeed. But yeah, I would recommend updating your resume. Also, if you're at a current internship and you really enjoy it, like having a conversation. I know some people get hired on after, you know, their internship, so that could be something to look for. Or yeah, honestly just searching. You could also like find someone who works on LinkedIn who works at the place you're thinking of applying and schedule a call with them. But yeah, I would definitely recommend talking to people that you already know, or professors or supervisors. As for the actual interview process, I think just highlighting your past experiences, just being yourself. And I would recommend applying like 6 months before you graduate, just so you have time. But if you want to give yourself time after graduating to just chill a bit and start the application process then, because I know it can be a really chaotic and busy time to do school while applying. So yeah, either way. Someone asked favorite coffee orders. So I've been getting Starbucks a lot. I have like a bunch of different orders that I rotate around. I would say the brown sugar shaken espresso has been so delicious, or I'll get a shaken espresso with oat milk, add vanilla bean powder, sugar-free vanilla, and then caramel. syrup. That's really good. I'll usually go on TikTok and look up coffee orders and order it that way, but I would say my most consistent one has been like the brown sugar shaken espresso or any shaken espresso. I just think it tastes so good. And then sometimes I'll just get an iced coffee and add vanilla and sweet cream cold foam. That's pretty good. If I go to like Dunkin', I usually get the butter pecan swirl. Super good. But yeah, I think I usually go for the shaken espressos. They're just the perfect amount of sweetness in coffee, because I feel like iced lattes don't really do it for me. I feel like the milk overpowers the taste of the coffee, so I like the shaken espresso. Someone also asked on my YouTube a while ago, they said, I wanted to ask if you could make a video discussing what you're studying for the MSW exam, or if you have any helpful tips. I took my exam really early February, and I passed my boards, my LGSW exam, also known as the ASWB exam. And honestly, I didn't really study for it. I did what is her name? Diane Apgar? Someone Apgar. They have an app, and I kind of use the app to go over questions. I'll link below this YouTube channel that I used, and I think it was really helpful to kind of go over the structure of the questions, and it really gave you tips on like what things to look for in the questions. I will link, I think it's the Savvy Social Worker. It might be a different account, but I'll link it below. That account I really helped like doing practice exam questions, and I would honestly recommend spending, if you can, spending the $75 to $80 to take the practice exam. I think it's really worth it. And my score on the practice exam was basically the same score that I got on my actual exam, so I felt that it was really helpful in terms of getting with like the timing of the exam, knowing what types of questions there are, the pacing of the exam, and I would definitely recommend doing that. I also attended, my school had like exam prep, like a Zoom thing, and it was like 3 hours long, where we just went over like 100 practice questions, and they were pretty similar in terms of what was on the exam, and I thought that was really helpful. So I would definitely recommend, like, if your school does any sort of prep, to do that. I'm fortunate that my school did. Or use the APGAR book to study, or the app to do practice questions. But I really didn't study that much. I think I started studying like 3 weeks leading up to the exam, and even then it wasn't every day, and it wasn't even for like an hour. It was just briefly going over, and then a week or two before I took the practice exam, and then I just went in and did it. I feel like it's more of a test where you're learning how to like answer the questions and process of elimination rather than knowledge. But there were some questions I got where I was like, I have no idea what this is. So yeah, but my program had a really high pass rate, so yeah. And you can always retake it. Like, it is really scary and overwhelming because it's like a 3-4 hour test, but I'm glad it's over with. And yeah, so that's what I would recommend, is taking the practice test for sure. Someone else asked, are you still a Christian? So the answer to this is kind of complicated, I would say. I just don't like the connotation that Christians have, so I don't know if I would necessarily call myself one. I guess technically I would be. I just really love the followings of Jesus and really resonate with that, and I definitely do believe there's a God, and I have my own spiritual relationship with him. But it's really complicated because I feel like a lot of Christianity tends to side with conservative Republican ideology, and I just don't align with any of that at all. So yeah, so I don't really align with that. Like, I'm pro-choice. Yeah, I just and that's really hard because I feel like there are some other Christians out there who assume that I don't love Jesus or that I don't have a relationship with them because of my political beliefs. But I don't think your political beliefs identify your faith, and I just think we should love people no matter who they are and treat people fairly, and I think there should be separation between church and state. There's just a lot of history where it shows how like the church has had ties with specific political candidates and all of that, and with slavery and all of these things, so I don't subscribe to any of that. But as far as Jesus and who he was, like, I wholeheartedly align with that. And yeah, so complicated question or answer, I guess, but I guess you could say yes. It just may look a little different than like the typical Christians. I don't know. Kind of similar to that question someone asked, how is your walk with Jesus going? I think it's going pretty well. I mean, I definitely have had my struggles and questions of should I even believe in this anymore? Like, it's just caused so much harm, and there's so many people who have religious trauma, and just how Christians have treated them, and even how Christians have treated me in the past. Like, I had like a really negative church experience a couple of months, well, actually almost a year ago, and that kind of turned me off. And I know that not everyone's gonna be perfect, and I'm still wrestling with a lot of things, but Jesus himself, I would say, I love him, I resonate with him, I feel like I'm pretty close to him. Yeah, and Jesus was just so radical and loved people and stood up against injustice, and yeah, like to help people and talk to people who everyone was like, why are you talking to them, like the lowest of the lows. So I live by that example. Yeah, everything else, I think it doesn't really matter. So I would say it's going good. Like, I feel like I still struggle with a lot of things, but you know, yeah, that's how that's going. Someone else asked, what do you think is a good salary for a fresh grad? So that's gonna depend on a lot of things. It's gonna depend on where you live, the area that you're in, and kind of the field that you want to go into. So I will say with full transparency that when you get out of grad school, like the MSW program, you have to be under supervision for 2 to 3, sometimes 4 years, depending on how many hours a week you work, until you can get your supervision hours and clinical hours in order to pass another exam. And then if you pass that other exam, you'll be making more money, and you'll be you know, not under supervision anymore. But for those couple of years after grad school, you're not gonna find anything that's gonna pay you a lot, and it's really unfair, and it's really discouraging. I think I've seen so many job postings where it's like 35 to 45k like right after grad school, which, I mean, it's all relative. To some people that may be like good, but to live off of where I am, like, that's not gonna work. So I will say I think a good salary is probably, for like a recent grad, I would shoot for finding places where it's 48 to 55 grand a year. Like, I think it depends. I mean, if you can find anything above 55 grand, like 60, it's really rare, but it's possible. And like hospital social work pays well. That's not a field I want to go into, but I know it does pay more than, but like the hours are weird. You have to work on weekends, typically overnights, that sort of thing. But yeah, for a recent grant, I would say I see a lot in the 45 to 50K area, and I would try to negotiate your salary to just aim higher. Yeah, but if you're getting paid below, again, it's hard because I know in some states like 45K is like the max, but yeah, I would say try to aim for higher than 50K, or 50K is pretty decent for, yeah. And then once you get your licensure, after the 3 years, you'll probably be making like 60 to 80K. Some people make more than 80K, depending on like if they have their own private practice. So it really varies, but that's kind of the general range, I would say. Someone else asked, when will we be getting a boyfriend tag? So I will definitely talk to my boyfriend. I know he doesn't love being on camera. He has shown up in a couple of clips and videos here and there, but I would have to bribe him and make him come on here just so y'all can get to know him and stuff. Yeah, so you know, I will talk to him and get back to you on that. That is it for today's Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any other questions that you want me to answer about anything I talked about. And yeah, I will catch you all in my next video. Love you guys.